on to the next session. The next session lined up is the Fireside chat hosted by Mr. Tathagat Verma in discussion with Mr. Dilip Asbe. Mr. Tathagat is the Vice President Strategy and Chief of Staff at Walmart Labs. Tathagat is the Program Chair for the industry track for this summit. Welcome, Tathagat. Now I introduce Mr. Dilip Asbe, who is the Managing Director and CEO of National Payments Corporation of India. Mr. Dilip has played a key role in designing, building, and managing large-scale innovative payment processing platforms like IMPS, Aadhaar-enabled payment system, RuPay, and the much-acclaimed UPI interface. Dilip has several awards and accolades to his credit. He has won the ET Award 2018 for Policy Change Agent of the Year for the revolutionary UPI. And in September 2019, he was awarded the Financial Express Award in FinTech category by the Honorable Finance Minister, Ms. Nirmala Sitharaman. It's my pleasure to welcome Mr. Tathagat Verma and Dilip for the fireside chat. Over to you, Tathagat.
We are extremely privileged to have Mr. Dilip Asbe, who is the Managing Director and CEO of NPCI, or the National Payment Corporation of India, better known for its product UPI to most of the people, most of the Indians, and most of the world now. In this fireside chat, I would like to have a discussion with Dilip on some of the things that touch our lives every single day. Before that, let me set the context of how one of the products of NPCI, which is the UPI, has been in its journey in the last 5 years. Right from its inception in 2016, when it started and signed up 21 banks, today there are 282 banks as of December last year. The volume is almost 4.5 billion, and it transacts over 8.26 lakh crore in just December alone, with 137 million merchants. And in 2021, it processed 940 US dollars of business, which is almost one third of the GDP of India. I think we have never seen a bigger success story coming out of India in terms of getting such a global attention and such an impact at India scale level there. So first of all, Dilip, our congratulations, if I can pass on as a fellow Indian to you and your team. It's a tremendous achievement and something that inspires millions and millions of Indians there. My first question to you is, how did that happen? How was this journey for you?
Uh, thank you for having me, and it's an honor to be part of your conference. I think the 12 years, has been very fascinating, and I must say, Tathagat, that there was never a dull moment. I must accept it, and no less excitement, whether it was past, whether it is present, or whether it's future, right? So I think it has been a very fulfilling journey, right? Working, you don't get a chance to work for a public good in your lifetime, and I've been very fortunate that the company has given me opportunity to work for 12 years, not one, two, but 12 years to contribute to the public good infrastructure of India. So I think exciting time, and but a lot more to be done. I think what excites me more is, whatever we would have done before. I think there is so much more to do. Right.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at things.
No,
And
absolutely. But
obviously, and sorry, just to last but not the least, NPCI that way gets a lot of credit, right? But I think this is a ecosystem play. So I think one is the ecosystem contributes a lot to the to the NPCI success. Second is, we have been fortunate to be live in the country where none other than Prime Minister, Finance Minister, IT Minister of the country are interested in the digital payments. The Governor of RBI, Deputy Governor of RBI, this is payment system is like to the core of their attention, right? Not many countries do have this clarity of thought. And because of this, I think their push for innovation, their ability to look at innovation-led policies is very, very high. And I think we have been little fortunate to be in this kind of ecosystem of vibrant banks, vibrant fintech startups, and the policymakers around us who's actually constantly challenging NPCI to deliver more and more. And I think the 1,000 employees of NPCI have been really working hard to kind of respond back to that challenge. May not be to the to the perfect level, but whatever is in our abilities, we are trying to respond back with the contributing back to the public good of the infrastructure of India.
No, that's amazing. Especially the point you called out about the support of the government and the regulator. I think this is such a phenomenal success factor for any kind of a change. And it's not just a technology change; it's also a big social change in how we Indians have been doing the digital payments there. So, absolutely agree with you. In fact, that leads me to my second question. That if I look at overall, we talked about governance support, we talked about regulatory presence in terms of really giving a more supportive environment. I want to talk to you about technology and also talk later on about the social aspects of that. So, in terms of technology, I understand you were the first employee of NPCI and you have gone through the journey as a CTO yourself. How has been that journey of yours as a technologist in terms of shaping the product, in terms of technological challenges you faced, and the breakthroughs you make? Would you like to talk some of those?
Um, See, Tathagat, we at NPCI, while the uh, the NPCI is authorized by it started by RBI as a clearinghouse, and the large banks in the country contributed to set up this organization. It's a public good, not for profit. Banks do not get anything out of NPCI, but still they contribute back to NPCI. Because it's a public good, and over in the long run, the banks and the ecosystem gets the value add back from NPCI. So when I look at why our role is the clearinghouse, but predominantly we deliver that obligations by being a technology company, right? So technology is at the core of NPCI, whatever we do, right? Whether it's innovation, whether it's trying to process more and more transactions efficiently at the best of the cost, what we could do, so that we can pass on that ecosystem benefit of economies of scale to the and the efficiency to ecosystem. The technology plays a very crucial role, right? And when any public good, there are predominantly I may not be fully right, but the way I understand the government, RBI, or the ecosystem looks at three things, right? One is, are you operating super efficiently? Are you innovating enough? Right? And are you passing the benefit of economies of scale as and when the volumes are increasing at steady level? It's a continuous process, right? And obviously, it doesn't mean that you operate on a cost plus or a cost plus plus model, but what it means is reasonable price, right? So these are the three things which are very important for us, and I think all three things, if you look at it, are very tightly correlated back to the technology, right? And we have seen the technology evolution, right? The initial part of NPCI, we predominantly depend on the partners. Then we try to build the capability and capacity, and we move to the co-development approach, wherein we do some work, partners do some work. And I think last 4 or 5 years, and I'm sure you are the champion of that. But the whole cloud plus open source plus this app ecosystem has changed the technology landscape tremendously, right? Today, if you had to build something like X just 7 years back, 8 years back, now I think it's come down to 1 by 10, right? That's the kind of a impact which has been put up, and the whole the hardware ecosystem, or I must say that the servers and whatever the equipments we were getting, the biggest story was the verticalization, right? You keep on buying bigger and bigger servers, right? If you want to
Right.
process more. Now the whole with this whole, and thanks to the open source, thanks to the technology innovation, this whole horizontal scaling with the commodity systems is the part of life, right? In that sense. So I think the technology evolution has played a big role in the success of the Indian financial services. When you look at the whether it's a success of large scale platforms like public platforms like UPI, Aadhaar, both are built on fully open source technologies, or the emergence of large number of startups and fintech.
Right.
I
Right.
think coming back to your point, the technology is core to us, and I see
Yeah.
that last 15 years, it has changed dramatically.
So one thing I always find with a very advanced technology solution, the elegance of a solution is in the simplicity, and I think what UPI has really achieved is a super simplicity, because in a nation with a very low literacy rates, a lot of our smartphones are probably not the most advanced ones. So you probably only have 4 or 5 apps, and to be able to really prioritize and have a UPI app on that one, and then language is an issue. Even though you are now supporting more than a dozen languages there, it's not always the right environment for a new technology to be adopted by without any prejudice by a common man who may not be so literate with the digital fluency there. What were some of the design and product considerations that you had in terms of designing the UPI product, keeping the persona of an average Indian in mind? Because that's really of a lot of interest to people in terms of how do you simplify it as opposed to complicate the technology.
Again, great question, Tathagat. And let me just tell you, so I think NPCI, while the UPI, and I'll come to the UPI design principles, but when we were doing the work on UPI, I think we were very, because NPCI is a public good, we get a lot of people contribute selflessly back to NPCI, right? So while NPCI employees were there, our core team who has actually worked for UPI design, like Satish, Anubhav, or Rajendran is not with us, but I think most of the people who worked initially with UPI are still with us. These people worked with the bankers, the lot of banks, ICICI, HDFC, Axis, SBI, a lot of bankers actually supported to build this as a service which links back, because finally we have to link the customer to the financial ecosystem, financial system of the country, right? So I'm just saying the bankers' contribution was immense. Then we had a lot of ecosystem players actually contributed back to the design consultation process, and obviously we worked with the best minds of the country, like Mr. Nilakini, Pramod, and Sanjay, Nikhil, and others. I can't remember all the names, but I'm just saying that all these people came together to design. RBI put in a lot of value, right? Because again, I'm telling you, the last but not the least, the interoperability, right, is such a core construct of UPI. And I think if I have to give one entity a credit of success of UPI, that will be RBI, right? Because they were very clear that whatever you do, it has to be fully interoperable. And a lot of complications came on intent call, the INAC calls, and all. But RBI stood firm. Then the Department of Payment and Settlement, while they may not be fully understanding the operating system calls, but they were very clear on the principle and the customer journey, right? And how the ecosystem should behave in an interoperable way. So I think, and which was exactly, if I look at it, not done in China. If you look at the Chinese payment system. So now coming back to the design principles, right? We were very clear, right? And while as an advisor, Mr. Nilekini spearheaded this whole thing, and the innovation-led approach for NPCI. And while many places he contributed within NPCI, the while UPI transaction is very simple for the user, at the back end it's very complex, right? So one simple paying money to you and me, the money exchange between you and me, or I'm paying to the small kirana shop outside my house, scanning the QR code, the transaction actually hits 5 or 6 entities, right? It's that complex to resolve all the addresses, go back and verify the details, and go back to the fraud risk management solution real time, go back to the settlement system real time, and then go back to the finally to the beneficiary bank, and credit back to you, or the merchant in real time. So backend is very complex, but we were very clear that the user journey has to be simplified, right? User journey has to be super simple, right? And this is where all this happens in the 3 seconds, uh, which is the average UPI time, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
8 legs with the 8 different institutions, 8 different data centers, but it just happens, right? And it's again the technology evolution, and the speed of the 5G, the smartphone, the app ecosystem, cloud, all have contributed to make this as a reality.
No, I think it is it strengthens that old saying, which is like to any onlooker or an untrained person, a well-designed product or a technology looks like magic, and I think it just works, right? It just works, and that's really been the selling point for UPI, and we have billion plus Indians who are using it now, and that brings me to a trade-off question, Dilip. While on one end, as a system designer, if I'm trying to build a system which should be extremely simple and really hiding the complexity under the hood, maybe I need to also look at the aspect of really, because it's a money, we are talking about people's money here. So you have issues about security or keeping the money secure in the transaction assured there. Now, there have been concerns that people have, and I would like to understand from you what's your take on that in terms of, is it that in order to make things simple beyond a point, we might actually be loosening the safeguards or really creating opportunities for the cyber attacks and the frauds and the unscrupulous elements to really take undue advantage of, especially people who are not so digitally literate. What is your thought process, or and what's your efforts towards addressing some of these issues?
Uh, See, Tathagat, you are bang on. You are a core technologist and product person by yourself. You understand the trade-off between the security versus the convenience or ease of or the experience, right? But today, and fortunately, we have two-factor authentication in place, and we adopted this. Two-factor authentication guideline of RBI blindly, right? So the every transaction in UPI is completely two-factor authenticated, right? And today, and that's the reason you would see that while yes, we do hear about the frauds and whatever it is, I just want to respond back saying that the frauds on UPI are much lower than any of the other payment systems what you see, right? So it is much lower than any of the other way. It is in fact less than a zero point 0.1 bips or something like that, right? So which is while the other payment systems are in the range of 1 or 2 bips, right? That's a standard worldwide reference point. But obviously, it's very high, right? Because UPI is at the world at the citizen scale, so even zero point 0.1 bips is very high. And
Right.
today, why the frauds are happening? Because the user actually surrenders uh, the two-factor. They are not because of the two-factor authentication, but they are due to user surrenders because of various reasons, right? Various reasons such as the somebody calls for the lottery or those kind of things, and you end up in giving. You are facing some technical problem on UPI, and you search on a website. There you see a fake number, right? You see a fake link and fake
Yeah.
ads on the social media platforms. So I'm saying this is the combination of. So I okay,
Mm.
look, I'm saying if you really ask me, there are two things which the regulator, the government, and us are extremely concerned that we want extremely low frauds, right? While whatever right now we process might be zero point 0.1 bits, but we still don't want, we are not even happy with zero point 0.1. We are restless at even zero point 0.1 bits. So there, I think, Tathagat, there is no one solution, right? I think the 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 point is, we will have to work with the law enforcement agencies that the syndicated frauds, right? Because this is not a one person trying to fish
Correct.
one
Yeah.
person, right? Wishing
Yeah.
frauds are normally, if
Mm.
there are fraudsters in a fragmented manner, they can't create this kind of an impact, right? So what happens? The issue gets big because when there are syndicated efforts of these phishing call centers and those kind of things that from certain pockets of the country. So we work very closely with MHA, very closely with law enforcement agencies to pass on the leads to get this some sort of the enforcement of law and order to curb this. Right, this is the first issue. Second is working with the social medias and other people to ensure that and today, right, there is something called verified merchant, right, verified person, right. So today this whole social media when they are giving a when I'm finding somebody, when I'm searching something, there has to be a mechanism to have that verified, right? Twitter does this with a blue tick, right? And I don't understand why this blue tick is not there when I'm on a search engine, when I'm there on a when the advertise is posted to me, right? So somewhere there has to be ownership of social media platform to show the blue tick version when I'm looking at it. and they may not do it for all, but at least they must do it for the B2B side, right? Not the
Yeah.
small merchants, but majority of the times the search is done on the institutions which are large corporations. So there at least the verified blue tick is possible, which for which gives the confidence to customer that no, he's talking to the right person.
No.
The third and last but not the least, Tathagat, is we have to, India is a large country, and when NPCI has a dream of reaching out to a billion transactions a day, or reaching out to, it's a mandate to us to reach to a billion people. The user awareness becomes a responsibility of the NPCI and the ecosystem together, right? So there is no shortcut in this. I think the financial inclusion will not happen unless we make first financial literacy, and a lot of work has been done on this, but still not enough. And I think you will see many more activities from NPCI yeah, and the ecosystem in this direction. And this is fully supported. That user awareness, financial literacy programs are fully supported by the government, RBI at the highest levels.
Correct. No, fair point. So if I have to kind of take so as a technologist, I get the reassurance that, see, from a technology stack and the architecture, we are pretty robust. It's not really a cause for concern. But as a product designer, if I put on the hat of that, I think there is a question of social engineering, or there's a question of
Wishing frauds.
literacy.
I think 90% frauds are wishing frauds,
Yeah.
right?
So I think we
Where the
have
user
to.
compromises.
And as you rightly said, as an ecosystem, we have to really work towards improving the financial literacy and digital literacy, and that will really improve how we look at that. In addition to that, one more question: were there any kind of a social predispositions that you came across in terms of people being an impediment to the adoption of UPI? In terms of people saying, "Hey, I mean, like." Maybe I don't even have I don't see the money, and it is lying in some digital thing, and I'm not really the literate, I'm a migrant labor in some other part of the country, and I don't get to see the money really. Or do you think that was already done before the wallet generation, so the resistance was lower?
No, Tathagar, if you really look at it, I think this is where people surprise us, right? And when it comes to the literacy, right, while the the reading skills and writing skills may be a question, right? But people do understand money. People do understand how to operate the smartphone, right? Thanks to the 4G and the penetration of the smartphones and the app ecosystem. I think the awareness levels are very very high, right? And I think what happened is the COVID kind of push that needle to make that shift, right? So in a way, at least there is some benefit if you want to look at from a COVID standpoint, is that pushing that needle to make that shift for the large scale citizens in the country. And I think they understand this. I think they understand this. It's just a matter of we have to keep hammering that education and awareness. It's not a one-time thing, Tathagat. And if you really ask me, what is the most hardest thing? Is that in the going to a billion, touching a billion lives, or processing billion transactions a day. If you really ask me, one hard thing, what I believe is making everybody financially
Yeah.
aware, sound, and empower them with a digital financial
Yeah. No, I think
transactions.
I would even place it extremely high, because I'm sure there is a fairly non-trivial percentage of people of bottom of the pyramid whose probably entire current life savings is stored inside either wallets or on their mobile phone there, and they are probably either sharing it, or they are remitting money somewhere or doing it. So it's almost like they are walking around with their entire life savings there, and I think we owe it to them to really give them a safe environment where they can take
No,
care of it.
absolutely. Goes without saying. Goes without saying. I think this is. Let me assure you, Tathagat, that this is the issue which runs on our mind, and I think this is something which regulator is also very concerned. Government is also very concerned. So I think we will have lot more work to be done along with the ecosystem to get the awareness. Otherwise, we'll fail. Otherwise, it's very clear that if the education awareness and literacy efforts has to actually be a little ahead of the migration or of the users, large scale users onto the digital platforms. And it's not only UPI, it's everything. I'm just saying it's,
Right.
if
Yeah.
you look now UPI is in front of your mind because it's a large scale system. But I think every financial system has a similar
Yeah.
issue, be it
No,
KYC,
absolutely. Yeah.
be it KYC, be it onboarding, be it the
Yeah.
other payment forms, right? So all of us are in the same boat as far as
Yeah.
the issues relating to the user awareness and
No, I
literacy.
think the concern that people have about UPI or in general about really managing their digital money is a backhanded compliment because it shows how much important it is for people now, and it shows how much mainstream it already has become there. In fact, I was reading one data point there which said that 50% of the transactions are below 200 rupees. Now, there are two ways to look at it. One is a question to say, well, how do we really make sure that we can improve and help there? But second is also, to me, like a common man's trust so much because maybe that's really the amount of trade that happens in the street between a pushcart vendor and somebody there. So I think that's a big deal that UPI has really been able to become front and center in people's life as far as those transactions are concerned. So that's a compliment. But let me also back it up with a question that the average in the last 2 years has grown to about 1800 rupees, is what we are hearing. How do you really see the opportunities in front of you to really make it even bigger and really much larger part of people's trade, whether it comes to personal or whether it comes to the businesses?
See, when you look at the transaction pattern, right? We have debit cards, credit cards, we had other IMPS, we have uh, NEFT, RTGS. And when you
Right.
look at and you can actually look at the study of average ATS for every payment system. When we started UPI, technically the objective was not that to impact the what is the customer doing on credit cards or IMPS or NEFT or those other payment systems. So the UPI was designed to process large scale, low volume transaction, which is actually the reason of cash in circulation in the economy, right? Because today, why do you need cash? It's actually only for the low ticket transactions. Today, otherwise, I don't think anybody is doing 5,000, 10,000 rupees. So I think as far as the large number of low ticket transactions in UPI, I think that's what it was designed for, right? So I think it's a great story. It's perfect.
Right.
Now, when you dissect it further, the average ticket size on the P2M is about 700 rupees, right? And average P2P always higher is about 2,500 plus. So that's make it ATS is around 1,700 or something like
Right.
that. So when you look at this whole composition, I think we are perfect, in that sense to look at how we are put up to, but still we are a little bit far away from the to really show the impact in cash in circulation because I strongly believe we require another 250 million customers, right? To really actively use UPI
Mm.
than what we are using. So we at least need 2x more users to use
Correct.
UPI, and
Yeah.
then actually you can see the linear, at least flattening out the cash in growth in cash in circulation. See, right now cash in circulation is quite high because of the fooding, because of COVID reasons and those kind of issues, right? But technically, once we have 400, 500 million users on UPI, right, we would definitely see because all the indicators are perfect. We just have to see large number of users that use it more and more, right? That's what we are looking at now.
Right. Do you see that there could be other use cases that might emerge out of it? For example, um, I don't know, for example, in escrow services, because when it's a business to business transaction, maybe those will raise the ticket sizes because that will really create, or digital contracts in the future that will really allow smart contracts to happen so the payments can be held in an escrow, or those kind of things might actually help make it more mainstream for a B2B transaction sort of thing.
No, again, good question. And, if you look at, this is where, when you look at some of the things, what we did for UPI, whether it's RBI regulation on auto pay, right? Whether it's
Yeah.
which is the recurring mandates or the pay per service, pay as you use the service
Right. Right.
model, right? And which is where I think it is moving towards the programmable money. Whether
Hmm.
the IPO case, right? For example, IPO is a classic case where SEBI and RBI helped us to deliver the IPO subscription use case on UPI. So I think most of the use cases are going towards that. And I think while the smart contracts is a classic term which is used in distributed technologies, I think we still have to uh, get that clarity or get that comfort that the distributed technologies can drive large number of TPS, like what needs by UPI. So while the smart contracts is the ultimate truth, I fully agree with you. But I don't know whether they have the large citizen scale transaction processing capabilities, right? Because the consensus and the getting everybody in sync. So those kind of things adds up the tax on the decentralized technologies to process large number of TPS, right?
Right.
And but we whatever we are doing right now on UPI is some form of programmable money in that sense. Whether you look at auto pay or
Got
IPO
it.
use case or a block functionality, I think see today the beauty of UPI is it's context free, right? Today the market can know it use cases. Market can actually design the use cases
Yeah.
and look at what best can come out of UPI. I'm saying we don't define. We have defined the APIs now. I think it's more like a protocol strategy in that sense to the in the next world.
Great. We are coming to the last few questions now. So I want to really ask you some questions. If you were sitting with a crystal ball, for example, how do you see the growth of UPI in the next few years in terms of looking at the most critical use cases, or eventually towards the long term? People have been talking about things like cashless society, for example, and we have almost seen that maybe for a lot of low value transactions, we are already becoming cashless there. So, do you see some of those converging at some point in time?
Um, Again, when I look at that crystal ball, I think I see the map of India. I see the map of world also now. So last couple of years, we have started. Our PM has a vision of UPI to be a UPI which has served as a public good of India. He spoke in one of the conference that UPI now is poised to take on become a public good of the world, and we can offer this public good of the good to the world. So definitely, I think there are two, three things the way I look at on a India map and the world map. One is the India map, and I spoke some time back about these three zeros, right? Three zeros is zero touch, right? So zero touch means that the payment has to be contactless, right? Fast in very, very efficient contactless based payments. Second is it has to be zero touch, right? So zero touch, what I mean by sorry, zero time. So zero touch is the contactless. Zero time. So I think we are competing with cash, right? So it has to offer the faster payment time with the time, right? So and RBI recently released a circular on the offline transactions, right, and framework on the offline transactions. And I think if you want to do this large, and even if while you say that 50% transactions are below 200, technically now if we I had read one Niti Aayog report and it said that 89% of the total transactions, financial transactions in India are below 100, right? So what it means is maybe 40-50% transactions are below actually 25, 30, 40 rupees. So if you want to bring those level of transactions on UPI to reach to your billion day vision, you need to provide a zero time solution, right? And which is
Yes.
nothing but an offline solution, right?
Yes.
The transaction happens and then later on it passes through the financial system, the core banking systems and NPCI, all these things. So I think the zero time is required. And last and not least is the zero cost to the customer. I'm sure the banking ecosystem is super efficient and super cognizant of providing the zero cost experience on digital payments to the customer. So I think India's standpoint, I think these are the three things which is what I think we keep thinking to how do we reach to a billion a day from that standpoint. The global standpoint, I think the see global transaction, right? Whether it's a cross-border merchant payment or whether it's a cross-border remittance, right? These are the two predominant retail use cases what you look at. Unless the both side regulators sits together and work out a very efficient cross-border transaction, very similar to domestic payment system, right? Why? So today, why domestic payment systems are efficient? Because it is able to do the multilateral settlement. It does not allow bilateral transactions. It makes it super efficient. So similarly, in the cross-border transaction, I think the when you are doing the transaction from bank account to bank account, right? It's very similar to a domestic transaction, and maybe you could start slow, just do it with a less than for example, $500, $1,000, and raise it up to $5,000 in a due course. But it has to have the inherent characteristics of the domestic payment systems, right? Which is the instant, near real time settlement, right? Real time transaction fulfillment, real time compliance, real time address resolutions. Those are the features has to come back to the global payment system. So I think from a global standpoint, the moment these are possible, right, we will see a huge shift of efficiencies from the like the domestic payment system into the cross border transaction. It is going to happen. It is going to happen, and
Yes.
all RBI has already launched the pilot with Singapore regulator, which is Monetary Authority of Singapore. So I think this. I think everybody is understanding this, and soon we will see these kind of pilots coming up. And I think in next 3 to 5 years, we'll see a very efficient cross-border transaction, just like domestic payment transaction.
Got it. Got it. No, I think this sounds very interesting, and I was actually, as a technologist, my mind was going in another direction, because essentially, if I abstract at certain level, what you have done successfully at scale and maintaining the speed is really a transfer of digital token from one entity to another in a very fail-safe manner. Now, today it is a digital token of money. Tomorrow it could be something else, for example. Nothing stops
Yeah,
it to be any other
yeah,
token.
yeah.
So the way I look at this platform as a technologist is that it could be used tomorrow for any kind of a digital transaction. Cross-border is one example, but even for example, let's say I have a song, or I have a piece of land and I want to transfer it to somebody else. It should be possible for all you know, because that's a technology.
No, no, absolutely. I think the ability of token to carry information in a secure manner, and the smart contracts to process in a completely decentralized uh, fashion, allows us to reimagine this whole world in
Yeah.
a new different way. That's what Web3 is all about. And I think the infrastructures like UPI, Aadhaar, and some of the similar technologies can actually facilitate, take a part in a big way to fulfill the needs what the next generation needs.
Yeah. I've come to the last question, Dilip. I want to understand and I want to know what keeps you awake at night. What's your vision? What is it that you would like to make a difference in the universe?
No, I think the you asked this question, Tadagar, that what when you look at the crystal ball, right now, I think the vision for India is very clear, which is a billion transactions a day. And now while the Prime Minister has spoken about, can we make the UPI as India's brand to help the public good and the economies of the countries worldwide. I think these are two things which are running on our mind. I just hope we are able to fulfill from an NPCI standpoint to fulfill this promise what we see every day.
So you have the best wishes of a billion people, so obviously you cannot go wrong on that one. Thanks a lot, Dilip. It's been wonderful
Thank you.
talking to you. Thanks for being so candid and so generous with your time and sharing some very key insights into the whole UPI and how you see the future ahead for us. With that, we'll be signing off. Thanks once again, and we wish you
Thank
all
you.
the best in your journey.
Thank you so
And
much.
it's back. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.